Following on from earlier this week, the news that the Supreme Court was going to be taking up a extremely controversial, to say the least, anti-abortion bill. Texas now has some amazing legislation. Greg Abbott signed a so-called heartbeat ban abortion bill. The name doesn't mean anything. It's nonsense. It's not really about a heartbeat, but they use that to try to manipulate you emotionally into supporting it. It would bar most abortions as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy. Now, that sounds extreme. It sounds crazy. It's actually worse than that, because it's not really 6 weeks after pregnancy. It's not, oh, you have 6 weeks to discover that you're pregnant. It's like literally like a couple of weeks after detectable pregnancy. So effectively, it means that there will be no abortions in Texas with this new legislation. Now, that said, as terrible as that is, the way that they rolled it out may be even worse. So here's a bit of video of them announcing this legislation.
Our Creator endowed us with the right to life, and yet millions of children lose their right to life every year because of abortion. In Texas, we work to save those lives. And that's exactly what the Texas legislature did this session. They worked together on a bipartisan basis to pass a bill that I'm about to sign that ensures that the life of every unborn child who has a heartbeat will be saved from the ravages of abortion. Now, we're about to make it law.
So they got a whole bunch of white guys, and then they got their like 6 women, and they clustered them in the middle. The only thing that would have made that imagery more perfect for today would be if they dressed in Wives Blue or in Handmaid's Red. But they did get a couple of women to put in the center of the shot as they effectively outlaw abortion entirely in one of the biggest and most populous states in the entire country, Ida.
So I wanted to share this. Carlos Chapman, I don't know if you know who she is. She's a law professor at Washington and the university, made a very interesting point about abortion. She said, if a fetus is a person at 6 weeks pregnant, is that when the child support starts? Is that also when you can't deport the mother because she's carrying a US citizen? Can I insure a 6-week fetus and collect if I miscarry? Just trying to figure this out here. Where should we go? All in. And I think it's interesting that we see these people who, these men who are talking about how much they care about children in a state where the education system, the public education system, is struggling so poorly, so much. And I mean, we're all furious. We get furious when we hear these men continuously talking about how passionately they feel about abortion until one of their mistresses becomes pregnant, and then we have to find the story later about how they flew her to another state to get the abortion or whatever. It's just sickening, and it's tiring, and it's hypocrisy, and they continue to play on the American people's emotions and feelings, knowing that good and well that this has nothing to do with their moral ground. It really has to do with economics, politics, oppression, white supremacy, and all of the above.
Yeah, every one of those creepy inbred dudes is gonna get abortions for people they want if they want them. They'll get it. They're just trying to make it more difficult for people in Texas. And by the way, as has been pointed out many times, no anti-abortion bill actually bans abortion. It only bans safe medical abortions. The abortions still happen. They're just way more dangerous. And the Republicans in that room are apparently fine with that. By the way, all the heartbeat stuff, I mean, we've gone over this ad nauseum, but it is total BS. It has nothing to do with a heartbeat. They're not detecting a heart. First of all, if they were to, there's no moral significance to that. It is just manipulation, but they're not even doing that. It is the detecting of a faint electrical signal from a few cells that will someday develop into a heart. It's not a heart that is beating in the chest of a fully formed human being. It is absolute emotional nonsense that they're trying to base this on. And under Roe v. Wade and Supreme Court precedent, none of this has any chance of succeeding. That said, we have an insane Supreme Court filled with religious zealots. It's a 7-2 Supreme Court effectively at this point, potentially on this issue, or close to it. And it is a reminder, as how many times do we say, when people tell you, don't worry about the Supreme Court, don't let that affect you, that's not a reason to vote one way or the other. Well, I don't know, for some issues it's sort of important. For some issues it has an effect. They didn't pass this bill thinking, oh, we just want to send a signal, it's gonna get shut down by the Supreme Court. No, they want the Supreme Court to take it up, and they want the Supreme Court to eliminate Roe v. Wade entirely. They might not even need this one at this point, but this is just another thing that they're sending out there to try to get it taken out because they believe they have a crazy enough Supreme Court, and they might be right, Ida.
They do. They have a handmaid on the Supreme Court. So, and that's not me like projecting or saying it, this or me trying to be funny. This is actually belonged to a right or a sect that refer to women as handmaids. There's so much that is how these the follow them emotionally, continuously trying to drive fear into them, telling them that someone is coming for something that belongs to them and they need their guns, knowing good and well the government will shut all of those people down if they have to, and their guns. And then telling people that abortion is a really big problem and that it's all patriarchy, it's all of it rolled up in one. And they have a lot of women who are being emotionally moved into supporting these movements. And as we watch on The Handmaid's Tale, it all doesn't end very well for the women who continuously support these men who are trying to oppress them. But the think about the Supreme Court, Donald Trump was successful, and the people who enable him were very successful in putting a man who has accusations of sexual assault, and you saw them demonize the woman. But these are the people who care about women, right? They're the ones who care about women, they care about children, but you see the way that they treated them. And then, I don't know, it's turning at all cylinders, and humanity and America looks really dark right now in terms of the things that our government is doing. While all of this is happening, the conditions of the average American are not improving. And that for me is why I'm like, this is all bogus and malarkey. They keep us distracted. We're arguing about abortion and guns and immigration, and we lost 500,000 people to COVID.
Yep.
It's just gross.
And still increasing. And one last thing on this, I'm gonna go to this last graphic. By the way, I just want you to bear this in mind as you continually hear from Republicans that Joe Biden isn't being sufficiently bipartisan, that, after they lost the House and the Senate and the White House and the American people absolutely despise them, Biden should still give them everything. Well, according to a recent survey of Texans by the University of Texas and the Texas Tribune, about 40% of respondents in Texas identified as pro-life, 41% as pro-choice. And yet, even though slightly more identify as pro-choice, they have now the most extreme anti-abortion legislation in the country. There's your unity. There's your bipartisanship. Let's just bear that in mind.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.